when everything around her shook as if the world were collapsing. The plane lurched violently. The oxygen masks swayed, the lights flickered, and the elderly woman next to Emma began to panic. Oh my God, we're going to crash. Breathe with me. The woman gripped her hand as if it were a lifeline. Her blue eyes, wet with tears, locked onto Emma's. And then suddenly she began to laugh. A nervous laugh, punctuated by sobs. Sorry, darling. I'm ridiculous. I've flown 1,000 times, but today... During that time, the woman, who introduced herself as Eleanor, began to talk. She spoke about life, about grandchildren who no longer visited, about the husband she'd lost years ago, about the empire she'd built that now felt cold and empty. That feeling. At 38, Emma also knew what it was like to feel invisible. She knew what it was like to work hard and never be recognized. She knew what it was like to smile politely while colleagues received promotions she deserved. Honey, you saved my life today. And I never forget when someone treats me with genuine kindness. She took a business card from her soft leather purse and placed it in Emma's hand. If you need anything, call me. Anything at all. Her purse was about to turn her life upside down. 3 days later, Emma was in her tiny Brooklyn apartment, wrapping cheap presents in recycled paper. The artificial Christmas tree in the corner blinked with faint lights. The voice on the other end was masculine, controlled, cold as ice. My name is Alexander Whitmore. My grandmother, Eleanor Whitmore, insists that I contact you. Emma remained silent, processing. Eleanor Whitmore. The name echoed in her mind until it finally clicked. She wants you to spend the Christmas holiday with us in Vermont and help with a special project. Frankly, I think it's absurd, but she won't take no for an answer. Emma felt her heart race. I don't understand. Neither do I. He sighed impatiently. But my grandmother is persistent. She heard her own voice say, I accept. There was a pause on the other end of the line, as if he hadn't expected that answer. Fine. My assistant will be in touch with the details. He hung up without saying goodbye. Of her life. Before we continue, a heartfelt request. Please subscribe to the channel. I would be very grateful for your support. To touch the sky. The driver didn't speak. He simply drove with precision, following a route that seemed rehearsed. Emma gripped the handle of her old suitcase in her lap and tried to calm the thoughts spinning in her head like an out-of-control carousel. Typed his name into Google. The first result was a photo. A man in an impeccable suit, defined jawline, dark eyes, and an expression bordering on intimidating. The headline read, Alexander Whitmore transforms family empire into billion-dollar giant, but at what cost? But the article also mentioned that he was known for being ruthless, distant, and obsessed with efficiency. Longtime employees said he'd cut family traditions, holiday parties, and even the famous Christmas event that Eleanor used to organize for the staff. The Whitmore estate wasn't just a house. It was an architectural masterpiece of glass, wood, and stone, nestled in the Vermont mountains as if it had grown there naturally. Enormous windows reflected the snow and trees. And smile. Emma, my dear, you came. She descended the steps with surprising energy for someone in her 80s and enveloped Emma in a warm embrace. I knew you would come. I felt it on the plane. You have a good heart. Eleanor took her arm and guided her inside. Come, it's freezing out there. The interior was even more impressive. Soaring ceilings, a crackling fireplace, furniture that blended modernity with comfort, and a delicious scent of cinnamon and pine in the air. I know what you're thinking. Eleanor sighed, following Emma's gaze. It feels empty, doesn't it? This house used to sparkle at Christmas. Lights in every corner, cookies baking in the kitchen, music playing, staff and friends coming and going. But my grandson did. He wore dark dress pants and a gray shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He didn't smile. He simply descended the stairs with measured steps, his eyes fixed on Emma with a mixture of curiosity and distrust. Eyebrow. I didn't say I don't like Christmas, I just think there are more productive ways to spend time and money. Productive. Emma repeated the word slowly, feeling unease grow within her. Interesting choice of word. He crossed his arms. Alexander was the first to look away. Well, you're here. My grandmother will explain what she expects from you. I have work to do. He turned and started up the stairs. Alexander. Eleanor's voice was firm. He stopped, but didn't turn around. Be kind. He didn't respond. Help me remind him. That evening, after a quiet dinner served by discreet and efficient staff, Eleanor led Emma to one of the guest rooms. It was spacious, elegant, with a view of the snow-covered mountains. Rest, darling. Tomorrow we begin. And to my grandson's heart. Emma lay on the soft bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. She thought of Alexander, of his coldness, of his calculating gaze, of how he seemed to have built walls around himself. And she thought of Eleanor. She'd found a purpose that went beyond herself. In the following days, Eleanor revealed her plan. But Alexander cut all of that when he took over. Eleanor explained as they drank tea in the enormous kitchen. He said it was a waste of resources, that we needed to focus on efficiency. Emma felt anger rising in her chest. Now they work because it's a job. Emma remained silent, absorbing it all. And that's why you're here, darling. Eleanor held her hand. Because you treated me like a human being on that plane. Not like a rich old woman. Not like an empire founder. Help me show my grandson that he can succeed without losing his soul. Emma took a deep breath and accepted. In the days that followed, they began. Emma and Eleanor went to the nearest town and bought decorations. Garlands, lights, ornaments, red ribbons. He would just look and return to his office. But Emma noticed something. He stayed a little longer each day, observed a little more. And there were moments, brief, fleeting, when she saw something different in his eyes. Something that looked like memory, or longing. It was the first time he'd shown any kind of concern. Thank you, she replied, but he'd already gone inside. That evening, while Emma and Eleanor were baking cookies in the kitchen, laughing, singing old songs, making a mess with flour, Alexander appeared in the doorway. He took a step forward. I don't know how to make cookies. Eleanor laughed. Nobody's born knowing, darling. Come here. And for the first time since Emma had arrived, Alexander Whitmore smiled. It was a small, hesitant smile, but it was there. Emma felt something shift in that moment. Feeling uncomfortable in his own home. But since Emma Carter had arrived, something inside him was changing, and he didn't know if he liked it. She was everywhere, decorating the living room with Eleanor, singing softly while hanging lights on the staircase. That night, after the cookie incident, Alexander locked himself in his office. He tried to focus on quarterly reports, profit projections, expansion proposals. But his mind kept returning to the kitchen scene. He closed the laptop harder than intended and stood up. He needed air. He went out the back door and walked to the wooden deck overlooking the mountains. Snow fell softly, covering everything with an almost sacred silence. He took a deep breath, letting the cold air burn his lungs. Can't sleep either? I was working, he replied, turning back to the landscape. Liar, Emma said simply, walking over to stand beside him. You were running away. Alexander felt his jaw tighten. Running from what? From feeling, she replied, looking at the snow. But I know people like you. People who work so hard to prove their worth that they forget to live. People who build empires but lose family. People who have everything but feel empty. The words hit Alexander like punches. He wanted to argue. He wanted to tell her to go back inside. Working on a Sunday, alone. Nobody noticed until Monday morning. Emma remained silent, waiting. I was 28. I took over the company because someone had to. And I promised myself I would never let it all fall apart. That I would never disappoint my grandmother. He felt something tighten in his chest. Something dangerous. Something he'd buried long ago. Eleanor is sick. Emma said suddenly. Alexander turned sharply. What? Nothing serious yet, Emma explained. But she told me yesterday. Her heart is tired. Why didn't she tell me? Because you're so busy building a legacy that you forgot to spend time with the person who is the real legacy, Emma said, and there was pain in her voice. Not judgment, just sadness. Really looked, for the first time. He saw the kindness in her eyes, the quiet strength, the way she carried her own scars but still had room to care for others. Why do you care? He asked, genuinely confused. You barely know me. I've been rude to you from day one. Why are you doing this? Emma smiled sadly. There was something in her voice that made Alexander realize she wasn't just talking about him. She was talking about herself, too. You lost someone. It wasn't a question. Emma nodded slowly. My mother. 5 years ago. And then there was no later. Alexander felt something break inside him. Emma discreetly wiped away a tear. So when Eleanor told me, I promised myself I wouldn't let it happen again, not with her, and not with you. Back. Emma held his hand. You don't need to go back. You just need to start over, now. In the days that followed, something changed. Alexander started showing up more, not just observing from a distance, but actually participating. Looked at Eleanor more attentively, how he listened to her stories instead of just nodding while checking emails, how he was gradually learning to be present. But then came the night that changed everything, ensuring everyone could attend. Everything was ready. But when evening came, an unexpected blizzard descended on Vermont. The roads became impassable. The power went out. Eleanor was visibly upset. It was the only thing I wanted, to see everyone together again. May I try something? The older woman looked at her confused. What do you have in mind, dear? Emma smiled. Do you trust me? She distributed blankets. She served hot chocolate she'd prepared in the kitchen. And then, in a soft, clear voice, she began to tell stories. Christmas stories, funny stories, heartwarming stories. Just about the first Christmas she'd spent with her husband. The employees shared childhood memories. And Alexander just listened. Emma watched him discreetly. He sat a little apart, but his eyes shone in the firelight. And there was something different there. So tired, Eleanor said softly, but he insisted on putting up the tree with me. He said it was the little moments that mattered, not the big deals, not the money, just being together. She looked at Alexander with tears in her eyes. I think that was the last time I truly saw him happy. He died because he was exhausted, Alexander said without turning around. And I became exactly like him. Emma approached slowly. No. You became what you thought you needed to be. But there's still time to choose differently. Empty. Emma cupped his face with both hands. You haven't wasted anything. You just forgot to live while you were building. But Eleanor is still here. Your family is still here. And you still have time. Something changed between them. Something profound. Something neither was ready to name, but both felt with every fiber of their being. When they finally separated, Alexander looked into her eyes and whispered, Thank you for not giving up on me. Come here, without judgment, without rushing, just acceptance. The following days passed like a fever dream, intense, fast, filled with an energy Emma had never felt before. Alexander was different, still serious, still focused, but now there was something more. The embrace, about the tears, about the raw vulnerability that had passed between them like an electric current. But they didn't need to. It was all there, suspended in the air between them, changing how they moved around each other. The storm has passed. The roads are clear, he said over breakfast. I want to throw a party for the employees. The right way, the way my grandmother always did. Eleanor dropped her cup, eyes wide. Are you serious? Completely. Alexander looked at Emma. Them to the Christmas Eve party. They decorated the event hall with more lights, more garlands, more life. They prepared enough food to feed a small army. Walls around him were crumbling, and in their place a man was emerging whom she was beginning to know and to deeply admire. On Christmas Eve morning, Emma was finishing setting the tables when Alexander appeared behind her. "Can I talk to you? Privately?" Alexander closed the door and stood still for a moment as if gathering courage. "I need to tell you something," he began, "and I don't quite know how." Emma felt her heart race. "It's okay. You can tell me." He took a deep breath. In silence, absorbing every word. "But you didn't give up," he continued, eyes fixed on her. "You weren't intimidated. You didn't treat me like a lost cause. You just stayed. And you showed me, without forcing, without judging, that I was living half a life." He stepped forward. "But I need you to know," his voice broke, "that you changed my life. In 2 weeks, you've done more for me than any therapist, any counselor, anyone has tried to do in 10 years. Emma couldn't hold back her tears. Her mouth with her hand, trying to control the emotion threatening to overflow. Alexander moved closer until he was just inches away. "Emma, I know I don't have the right to ask this. I know I was cold, distant, difficult, but please." And saw everything: fear, hope, vulnerability, and something deeper, something that made her heart want to burst with intensity. "I don't want to leave either," she whispered. "I changed here too. I found something I didn't know I was looking for. Full of everything unsaid, full of new beginnings and second chances." When they parted, both were crying and smiling at the same time. "Stay with me," Alexander whispered, "at least until we figure out what this means." "I'll stay," Emma promised. That night, the party happened. There was genuine laughter, warm embraces, and a sense of community that had been absent for so long. Eleanor was radiant, circulating among people, hugging, chatting, laughing. Emma watched from afar, feeling deep satisfaction at having helped bring this back. Alexander held the microphone, clearly uncomfortable but determined. "Good evening, everyone." His voice echoed through the hall. "I know many of you must be surprised to see me here, and even more surprised to see me organizing a party." Some nervous laughter. Looking around, making eye contact with familiar faces. "I forgot about you. I forgot that this place isn't just a hotel. It's a family. And you aren't just employees. You are the heart of this place." Emma saw tears on some faces. "And I want to thank 2 extraordinary women." He looked at Eleanor. "My grandmother, who never gave up on me, even when I deserved for her to give up." Eleanor blew him a kiss. "And Emma." He searched for her in the hall. "Everyone isn't just about a party. It's about a new beginning. It's about bringing back what we lost, and about building something better, together." The hall erupted in applause. People stood, hugged each other, cried, laughed. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything." Emma cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. "You did this yourself. I just reminded you of who you've always been." "Then remind me every day," he said, "because I never want to forget again." From afar, tears of joy streaming down her face. Her grandson had returned, and she knew with absolute certainty that Emma Carter hadn't just saved a Christmas. She'd saved a life. Thinking about how her own life had changed as much as that landscape. After that magical Christmas night, Eleanor had made a request Emma never expected to receive. Speechless. "I need someone who understands the heart of this business," Eleanor explained. "Someone who can balance efficiency with humanity. Someone who reminds my grandson, and all of us, what truly matters." She smiled. "And I think that person is you. Create employee wellness programs and ensure the heart of the company would never be forgotten again. But more than that, she'd found a home. Loved." The door behind her opened, and familiar arms wrapped around her from behind. What are you thinking about? Alexander murmured against her hair. Emma leaned back against him, feeling the warmth of his body. About how life can change on a flight. He chuckled softly. Formative. Alexander had kept his word. He hadn't gone back to being that cold, distant man. He still worked hard, but now he knew when to stop. He knew when to prioritize people over numbers. Think about planning the next big tradition. Emma laughed. She never stops, does she? Neither do you, Alexander said, with that smile that now came so easily. You two are dangerous together. I've been thinking. Christmas was wonderful, but what about Easter? And Thanksgiving? And the birthdays of longtime employees? Emma and Alexander exchanged an amused glance. Grandma, Alexander began. But Eleanor interrupted. Don't grandma me in that tone. Eleanor, that's beautiful. And I want you to lead this, darling. Eleanor held Emma's hand. You have the gift of seeing what matters, of turning simple moments into memories that last forever. Emma looked at Alexander, who nodded encouragingly. He asked suddenly. Emma looked at him surprised. Extremely. Why? He hesitated as if choosing his words carefully. Because sometimes I still can't believe you chose to stay. Chose to stay with me. Emma cupped his face in her hands, forcing him to look into her eyes. He closed his eyes, absorbing the words. You know what I learned here? Emma continued. That it's not about deserving love, recognition, or worth. It's not about being enough for others. Plain, Emma said. You saw it in me when I arrived here. And I saw it in you, the man who was hiding behind all those defenses. And now? He asked. Now, Emma smiled. We just keep choosing each other, every day, in the little things. Always. And I choose you, Emma replied. 6 months later, during a visit to one of the coastal hotel properties, Emma was giving a talk to new employees about company culture when her phone vibrated. It was a message from Eleanor. Darling, you saved my family. Now let me save a piece of yours. It was her childhood home, the house her mother had loved so much. Another message arrived. Alexander found out it was for sale. We bought it. It's yours now. So you can always have a piece of her with you. Emma had to leave the room, tears streaming freely. Say nothing. Just live. Love. Be happy. That's all your mother would have wanted. That night, Emma sat on the deck of the Vermont property, her favorite spot, gazing at the stars. Alexander joined her, covering them both with a thick blanket. At him. I love you, she said, simply, without fear, without doubt. Alexander smiled, that genuine smile he only showed her. I love you too, more than I ever thought possible. It deserved to be seen, that she needed to prove her worth. But the truth Eleanor, Alexander, and this place had taught her, was simple and powerful. She had always been enough. She had always been special. Emma Carter finally understood. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't finding what we're looking for. It's discovering that what we were seeking was inside us all along. We just needed someone to help us remember.